Your. I think not feel like what I'm supposed to do.
Just do the public one.
You could also use,
Remember your.
and the password for the public is I am a guest.
It's a whole different. You have to remember,
I am a guest.
I'm a defense contractor. Nobody gets my.
Just give him $20, put it past the one.
No.
You guys haven't devised a technology where you can just like tap into someone's mind and get their passwords. Yeah, you guys haven't done that?
No, that's not my department.
Classified.
Which I watched it. This.
So like, do you have, so mine's M Graham, like what you would put in to like log in? Like just your employee one. So I would assume it's just like your first initial and then your last. No, shouldn't be. And then you would have like whatever password you.
Try your standard password.
This is the public, I never get it.
Let's see how fast we can do it.
Okay, so you, that one's just the public one, but.
You still public. This is my work. I have a laptop or an iPad. 6 different kids.
Oh. It's like a crapshoot between your car and the time you get here. You know, you have a choice.
But I have my iPad, I don't know, I want to be able to see for the. So I have one. I've got them on you now.
I did. Out of the country.
Oh, yeah.
You were casting from
All right, it is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call this meeting of the Syracuse City Council to order. We have an unusual situation, one that I have not seen in my entire time serving in City Council, so I'm going to take a point of privilege here. We have every council candidate attending, which has never happened at a council meeting before an election. So if the council will indulge me, I would like to give them all 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the entire community, because we record these meetings, and give you it's equal, so you all have a chance. Is that okay?
Yes,
all right.
Love it.
Who wants to go first? Abe, I think you're up.
Sure. Wait.
And I know we're putting you on the spot. This
Yeah.
is just
No,
whatever you want to
it's
say
fine.
for 2 minutes.
My name is Abraham Pollard. I've been a resident of Syracuse City for the last 4 years. My wife Christy grew up here in Syracuse right off 1000. And you know, I was an Arizona State Police officer, retired from that, and wanted to move home, and this has always been home. So we were looking and found a great house over here right by the onion factory in the high school, and we love it here. Love the community. We're pretty active involved. I have 4 kids. Harley's my oldest, and then I have Isaac and Isabella. They're my twins. They're going to be freshmen this year, and then my youngest is 11, Jordan, and he's just finishing the elementary school, and he'll be off to junior high next year. But this year he's last year in school, and love Syracuse. Super love the community, love the people, and just want to make sure doing my part that keeps Syracuse great.
Awesome.
Yeah, me. Right. Well, guys, my name is Jacqueline Martinez. I'm kind of a new fresh face. I'm originally from Colorado. I have 5 kids. My husband works for Rio Tinto. We moved here. We've been living here almost coming up on 6 years in October. I have 2 of my boys that attend Syracuse High School, and then I have my 2 younger ones. They attend Syracuse Arts Academy. I just transferred them from the Antelope to the new one, so this is going to be our first year at the South Campus. One of the things when we moved here from Colorado, because I was raised there my whole life, my kids are from there. So moving to Utah, we kind of wanted to find somewhere that we could call home and kind of retire, even though we're still like not too young, but not too old. But, you know, you gotta start thinking about the future, and we fell in love with Syracuse, the rural aspect of it. We live over by old, firehouse. So I mean, I see cows driving into my neighborhood. I have cows within my neighborhood. Fun story is when we first moved here, I think the second day we woke up and there was cows walking throughout the neighborhood. So we had a get together with all the neighbors and we were all trying to herd the cows back. So that's just something that I really want to help preserve within Syracuse and help, you know, preserve the small town feeling, but yet I know change has to happen. But like I've always said, you know, change is good, but not all change is good. So kind of what I'm hoping to accomplish.
Thank you. Next, Andrea.
Woof, okay. I'm Andrea Brown. I am an old fresh face. I've lived in Syracuse for 20 years. Raised my kids here. I've got a daughter who's 21. She's in Europe right now doing study abroad at the University of Utah. I have a son who'll be at Binghamton next year. We're moving him down right now, and that's horrible because I really like him. And then we have a 13-year-old, and he's at Syracuse Arts Academy. So he knows the kids. He's a terror, so I really don't hang out with him. But I love this community. I've been part of it. I've been involved with schools. I've been involved with community service and something that my daughter is very politically aligned. So she said, "Mom, can't complain. You gotta go do stuff. You can't just sit there. You gotta go get involved." So that's why I'm here.
Wonderful.
Hello, my name is Gretchen Ivy Ruland. I think it's my fault that we're all here. I invited them all, but luckily we're all here. But I am running for the Syracuse City Council. Most of you have familiar faces. Hello, I'm back. And I know I'm ready now. I did that study, that certification. I've learned a lot from that, and I know I cannot wait to implement or apply what I learned from it, from the Harvard certification, leadership strategy. From public leadership to like anything in between. I did the board for the Syracuse Elementary Review for 5 years when my kids were there. And then I did 6 years for with Planning Commission. That one was amazing. I learned a lot from that. And I can't wait to help more. I can't wait to see Syracuse thrive and just be better every year. But yeah, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, I think it's wonderful that we had all of them here. It's like a free invite.
either, so this is fantastic.
Yeah, so, all right, moving on to public comment. Let me be very clear, public comment is the opportunity for anyone in our community to bring a subject or topic forward to our attention. If it is not on our agenda, we cannot respond to that topic due to Utah's Open and Public Meetings Act. So we will not be discussing the items that come from public comment, but it could be a future item for discussion at a future agenda when it is properly noticed. You need to state your name and place of residence for the record, and you have up to 3 minutes to, it's not Q&A, but 3 minutes to tell us what you'd like us to consider. And there is no public hearing on the agenda tonight, so if you'd like to comment on an item, this is your opportunity. There's not a public hearing. Anyone, go ahead. State your name for the record.
My name is Mark Jensen.
And your residence.
I reside in Late.
Okay,
So, no, some of you may look at me and think, oh no, it's from across the border.
go ahead.
I promise we're close by. So like I said, my name is Mark Jensen. I do reside in a neighboring community. And I'm here seeking support for a clear policy that supports our children in our community. 2 weeks ago, I did appear before the community council here and tried to report on it, wasn't on the agenda. Tonight, as you continue discussions related to the leasing of city property to private businesses, I do urge you to consider a specific aspect within the conversation that profoundly impacts our children. I submitted a proposed resolution to the city recorder with the intent that it be considered as a distinct agenda item today. And while I appreciate that it is included on tonight's packet, it appears as a subpoint within the broader discussion of commercial business leases. I believe that the proposal is unique and it is an important issue that does benefit from focused consideration. My daughter and nephew recently experienced consequences of a policy gap firsthand. They simply wanted to set up a lemonade within a Syracuse City park. It's an innocent child-led activity, but was told it wasn't allowed without a permit. The responding officers, extremely professional, very kind, but the message to the children was very clear. You have to have a permit. Situations like this sends the wrong message, not only our families, but to children themselves. When wholesome community-based activities like lemonade stands are restricted in public spaces, it discourages the very behaviors we say we want to see more of. Instead of playing outside, engaging with neighbors, and learning responsibility, kids are left with fewer meaningful options. If there's a concern that children today don't go outside as much, they don't engage with community, we need to recognize as adults how local policies contribute to that trend. These restrictions, however well-intended, can inadvertently close the door on real-world learning and independence. Fortunately, the legislator has given guidance under the original Senate Bill 81 in 2017, and again with Senate Bill 151 in 2023. It's called the Lemonade Law, or the Utah Young Entrepreneur Act. It prohibits municipalities from requiring permits and licenses for casual businesses run by minors. I do want to address 2 points that is on the agenda today. Mayor's proposal number 2, while supportive in tone, it does not explicitly permit minors to operate casual businesses on city property like parks. It creates unequal access, especially for children who do not have access to private property locations like a commercial vendor would and simply relocate. Additionally, on mayor proposal number 1, the 300-foot exclusion around the splash pad is overly broad. It effectively makes all of Centennial Park and the splash pad entirely off the limits to all children selling anything like crafts or lemonade, while still allowing commercial vendors just outside the boundary, which is a clear inconsistency, especially with the mayor's proposed resolution stating to treat all businesses equally. The city attorney did create a review and did affirm that the city leases to businesses, they have to provide the same opportunity to children without a permit. I would like to see Syracuse make it a place where every child's entrepreneurial spark is met without a barrier in what we greet with an open door. I respectfully ask you to direct staff to place the adoption of the proposed resolution that was
So
submitted.
you've reached your time limit.
Thank you.
Can I provide my time to him?
You cannot. You can speak if you'd like to.
Okay.
Is there anyone else that would like to take up to 3 minutes? Go ahead. You need to state your name for the record.
My name is Taylor Thompson. I live in Layton. And I'm selling lemonade with my cousin because it teaches us teamwork and how to do a job in the future. My name is Donna. I'm 11. I like selling lemonade because I live in Clinton. I like selling lemonade because it teaches me the importance of saving money. My name is Liam. I'm 9. I like selling lemonade because I like donating to worthy charities.
Such as the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. They do donate portion to their earnings to that charity. And my name is Shauna Packard. These are my 2 boys, Down and Liam. And like they said, we live in Clinton. We love going to the splash pad, and they wanted to try to sell lemonade. And to being told no for something we think is like an innocent and a good opportunity for them to learn how to work hard and how to save money. It's a little bit frustrating. So we would love for you guys to really change the policy to allow minors such as these kids that are here today before you can see them. They're great kids and they just want to try to earn money for something that is interesting to them. That's all we have. Thank you for your time.
And then my name is Nika 80. I'm Michaela's mom, but the aunt to all 3 of these little kids. And honestly, this is the 5th of 6 kids, and I'd love for them to all be able to continue to sell lemonade. This is a great life skill. It teaches them a lot of hardworking abilities, and they have to problem solve. And I know you guys saw them reading from a phone, but each of those ideas was just supplied by them, and they got nervous, so we wrote it out for them just in case they got nervous. And good thing her aunt thought ahead of that. But each of those was independently something that they had previously discussed as the reasons why they really wanted to sell lemonade. I do feel like this blocking them from selling lemonade is in defiance of the spirit of the law that already exists. And that law passed with unanimous support. I think that you guys should really recognize that if our Congress people believe that, and you know, other cities have adopted similar policies, like Kaysville and Layton and Milton, then I think that Syracuse should too. I mean, at the end of the day, we are all about family roots and, you know, being neighborly, and I do think that is a really good way of being neighborly.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment tonight? Okay, I did have one public comment come in via email, and I'll let Marisa read that into the record.
Good afternoon, Mayor Mon. As Amanda emailed you, we really want to express our gratitude to you and your stewardship through this process. We will not be able to attend tonight, so I was hoping you might share with the council these words for you and for them. When we came to the city asking to park our trailer at the museum parking lot, we were frustrated and admittedly a little bewildered by the lack of success we were having with private or corporate-owned areas in Syracuse. Potentially, as such a new type of business, it has not caught on yet in our small portion of Davis County like it has in Layton and Farmington. We had no idea that what we perceived as a simple ask would lead today. It has been amazing seeing the function of local government at work in the discussions, the weighing of options, etc. As this has been considered, I truly wish more people would become more aware of the amazing work happening behind the scenes. We want to unequivocally say without knowing the outcomes that we will move forward with our dream, whether mobile in Syracuse or not, leading hopefully to a brick and mortar in our city within a couple years. We will always first try to be servants and stewards for and to our city in whatever capacity we and our coffee trailer can. Additionally, we want to acknowledge the wills we set in motion with this ask and are happy to see and be a part of whatever change comes benefiting businesses like ours in the future. A great thank you to the city council members, the city employees, and of course, you, Mr. Mayor, for the thoughtfulness, consideration, and hours put into considering our ask, and however the vote goes, we will always be indebted to the many small acts of kindness shared with us along the way. In closing, we thank you and still hope that in some way we will be a business operating in Syracuse in the near future in a parking lot of the city or a brick and mortar eventually. Warmest regards, Mike Hildebrand.
Okay, with that, we will close public comment for the evening. We'll move on to item number C1. Noah, if you'd come forward. His recommendation from Planning Commission. This is a general plan amendment from medium density residential to commercial. This is zone change on Antelope Drive, approximately 3400 west. Is there anything new we need to know about this since we talked last about it?
Nothing new. I think this is the first time that you're discussing it at city council level. They did discuss it with.
You're right. He's right. I was at planning commission, and that's why I was familiar with it. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, it's just directly west of the golf course clubhouse, and they have 2 applications in, one for zoning and one from general plan, so that they can do a commercial retail.
And just so you know, this is the landowner, his intended use that he had said that he was always pursuing. It's just an extension of a current zone that's already there. And that's what planning commission came back with, was we believe that it's consistent with the adjacent zoning.
Yeah, the land directly west of the clubhouse is already commercial. This is just extending it just a little bit further.
One more lot further.
There's a house and another little lot next to that.
So council.
The east is already general.
Yes. To the east.
Yeah, sorry, west of the clubhouse is commercial, but yeah, east of the proposed property. It's
Yes, got it.
Yeah.
So council, how do you feel about this proposed application?
And so they are planning on putting in some type of strip retail. Is that what I was hearing? Do we have any indication of what kind?
The only indication that I've been able to get from the owner when I asked was that it would be similar to what is on the west side of. So we approved some small 3 or 4 occupant units that are over by the car wash and the weed care. He's suggesting it would be similar to that. We have not seen plans, but same company and same concept.
Just out of curiosity, I don't see him here. I know that the adjacent landowner, we have the house, have they waited on this? I want to make sure we consider the neighbors.
At planning commission that held a public hearing, there was a neighbor there that lives on Antelope and he doesn't like that. He called it retail creep or something like that. He didn't like that the retail kept marching along. There was also some discussion worry about errant golf balls, things like that hitting.
Well, that is a concern.
Hitting, yeah, so there was
Anything
some,
that's built.
If you've ever seen me golf, that would definitely be a concern.
yeah, I'm right there with you.
Are there other factors that play into it being a poor spot for commercial?
I mean, that's their decision.
You know, they weighed the pros and the cons, and planning commission's forwarding a recommendation for approval. Some of the pros discussed were that it's on a state highway, has great visibility, it's next to existing commercial. The city meets sales tax. What was that?
1 million people go to Antelope Island every year.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is.
There's services that they'll add. They talked about adding a net or doing some mitigating things for the concerns.
What
Right.
about,
Yeah.
so the other one would be the golf course, clubhouse specifically.
They're connected to the applicant.
They're connected to the
They
applicant.
they were in
They are-
favor of it.
Okay,
Yeah,
They're-
they're selling the land.
They're
to
the ones
developer.
connected to the applicant that wants to do it, so. I would say that UDOT has expressed that eventually that area has to be widened to widen the road, so it is planned for expansion. It is several years out from what they've told us as more recently, but
well, it was before 2030, I thought.
it's actually now about 2035. They say they'll make it all the way. And that would be because the widening that's gonna happen in front of the golf course as part of the Costco evolution is gonna take it down to about 3,300. And so they think that delays maybe another 5 years
That makes
before they
sense.
make it all the way down to Doral. That's what they're telling us, but they have in the plan by 2045 to widen the entire road to 4 lanes plus a center lane by 2045, I think, all the way to the guard station.
Interesting. Yeah, and at that point, you gotta widen the causeway. Now
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah,
So I guess my only concern is, I mean, to this specifically, I have nothing specifically against it. I think it's,
I would also
It's a
throw in
commercial
that
area.
this is the side of the road that has to be the widening because the other side has well-established sidewalk, curb and gutter.
Yeah.
This side does not, and so that would be the obvious choice. It's less to replace.
so well, I guess it's up to them to design it, but ultimately, both the clubhouse and this location is gonna have to plan for that widening, so.
I think they both mentioned that they've taken that into consideration. I don't have any major concerns with this. It's a minor extension of a commercial area. It's congruent with what's already there. I don't really have a great concern with this.
Whether it's not backyard neighbors, it's fairly benign.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with it.
I'm good.
All right, I'm seeing everyone in the affirmative, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the consent agenda for our August 12th meeting. We are missing a council member, Councilman Carver. If she wants to take it off, she can, but it'll be on for approval. Item number 2, this would be discussion and review of city land retail leasing policies. Brody.
Okay, so yeah, in the packet, you have an outline that looks at what we currently have, the lease rates we have, the costs associated with each of those. There's a market, some market study we did, some market research on what the going rates are. Some operational concerns, and issues that, staff has brought up in terms of, placement of these types of, businesses in, mostly the parking lots. And then, we've looked at some of the takeaways as far as, when you look at all of these issues in totality, both financially, operationally, and then also just philosophically, I think the first question posed in the memo is what should be discussed first, and that is, should we continue doing these things? If so, then the next question would be to what extent, and if you could give staff some direction on to what extent in terms of, do we want to expand locations, reduce locations? And then if you want to direct staff to come up with some proposed lease rates and standardized processes for leasing these spaces.
So in my opinion, the only way we should consider this is if it is a profitable venture for the city and we're not subsidizing private business. So I guess that's the first question is can it be a revenue stream for the city and operate not at a loss? And then if that's possible, then I think designated areas with long-term leases would be the solution. And even if those leases have a set amount of time, and even if those leases say it's not, you can't operate during winter months or whatever that is, those are the two factors that I think we have to answer if we consider this.
For me, one of the big concerns is just consistency.
Yeah.
We are at a place where, over the last few years, we've experienced some growing pains where things that maybe were appropriate to a city of 20,000 are no longer appropriate to a city to manage at 40,000 because we can't equally serve everybody. So what can we do that we can treat everyone equally is the question. And what can we support with the staff and effort that we have? And I did want to weigh in with, I'm gonna invite Kresta. Can we add one more chair to the table here?
One right here.
Kresta is our Parks and Recreation Director, and her department ends up maintaining a lot of the impacts because a lot of these are in parks. So dealing with power to places, the trash limitations and extra effort that goes into that. And what I think is the most important is maintaining facilities. So I wanted to give her a chance to talk about what the impacts are to the city as we grow and what the impacts are to our city labor force as well.
Yeah, so you saw in the packet, some of the concerns that we had obviously is anytime that you put a business in a parking lot, it's gonna be a safety issue. And that's one of the biggest ones for us. Is that if we have a lot of sports and things that are going on in our parking, and that's where people want to be. They don't want to be at a park that doesn't have any activity. They want to be where the people are. And so you have to look at that. Like you said, there's not electrical that supports something like a food truck in our park. So they would have to bring in a generator. So then you have to worry about the noise and then the pollution for that. When it comes to people selling things in a park, they try to do their best to be able to clean up. They do around their area, but as you know, people actually go in different parts of the park, which then causes litter throughout the park that we have to help maintain. And then for them to have a license in our parks, they have, for the health department, they have to get a signature that they can use our restrooms for, to throw away water, to use the restrooms, to use water to fill up in their stuff. So there's an impact in that sense also. So those are the ones that impact us.
And how is the management of that going? Do we often get requests for the signatures and the appropriate sign-offs that have to happen?
Yeah, so how that works, it actually goes to CED first. Heather, who's here, they'll go and talk to her and get all the contract. And really what we do is when they send it over to the parks, we'll just say, okay, you can have, that's available to have in the park, which we look at the safety. And like, that's why with Founders, it's so crazy to have a food truck out there and kids running across, because kids don't stop and look and watch. So we always take that into effect as the safety, or when our parks are open, because I know that there's they want to use winter months, you wouldn't be able to sign off on a restroom. So then you're gonna have to bring in portable restrooms, which you're gonna have to worry about that because kids like to tip those over. So that's a problem in itself. So those are the things that we deal with.
I'd like to point out the difference between, and maybe you guys are already aware of this, but there's a lease agreement which gives permission to be on the property, whether or not it's city property or private property. But there's also the business licensing, and anybody that's conducting business has to get a business license, and that's through Heather and our department. And that's where fire marshal and the health department, we check all those boxes regardless. So there's kind of two things. Either way, people are gonna have to get a business license wherever they're conducting business, unless they're lemonade stand. They don't have to get a business license, but what we're talking about is, leasing of the city property, which are two separate things.
Sure. Can you also talk about the restrictions around, splash pads and swimming pools?
So when we
And for any problems we've been seeing.
When we built the splash pad, you have to go through all the health code regulations, and if you notice over there on the sign, it says no food or drinks. Now, we're not naive to believe that people aren't bringing in food and drinks, but that's something that you're not supposed to, by Utah code, have food and drinks within 10 feet of the splash pad. So that's why there has to be, when Colin and I were discussing it, it was like, how far do we need to go out to make sure that people aren't? Because, I, for one, too, don't want kids not to be able to sell lemonade, but I don't know how we could let them inside the splash pad selling lemonade and food if our rules are no food or drinks. So there's gonna have to be some kind of barrier if we do that. And I understand why they want to do the splash pad because it is busy all of the time. That's where they're gonna get it. We do have a lot of people that call in to whether either Heather or over there and ask, and because we've had the code, we say, no, you're not allowed to sell there. So I think if you open it up, you might have a lot more people selling there. So you're gonna have to monitor that and whether you're gonna have a limit on that, or whether you're going to just let it be free to go. But you have to worry about people spilling that and things inside of the splash, which contaminates water, which brings in the pests, because we only do what is it called? I can't even think of what I'm trying to say.
The maintenance.
The maintenance, but not sanitation, but sanitation once a week, Wednesday, we go in and spray everything down really, really well. So if that's something that's spilled, it's waiting, unless it's like crazy, then we'll go in, but. So you have to make sure that you're not having like ants and
So
pests.
if we open this up, we'll probably be shutting this splash pad down a lot more often.
No, yeah, you could, because then there's all full stuff with the filters,
Yeah.
but if you do it outside of it, that's why we don't wanna have to kick people out, but per code. If you're selling inside, we've had people call in, it's funny because you can't please everybody. We've had people call in that parents are mad because people are selling stuff because they don't want their kids begging them every day to be able to go over and get, there were some bracelets that were being sold over there, or, lemonade or snow cones or cookies were being sold. So you get it on both sides. People want to do it, and then people don't want you to be able to do it. So you get it, kind of everywhere. But no matter what you guys decide, we're gonna have to put a restriction inside the splash pad, because there's not supposed to be food or drinks in here. It's for us.
Not only inside, but around it as
Around it.
well.
One of the things
Within the
that,
10 feet, yeah.
one of the things that I want to bring to the table is just that, and you're aware of this, Jordan, but the others may not be because they weren't here when we built this. But this is a well-known facility throughout the entire state. It was state of the art when we built it, but it does require specific pumps and filtration, and the moving water element of this. If you get pieces of wrappers and fragments that get caught in this, the expense to have to repair this is huge. And we already get a lot of pushback, the fact that we give it a maintenance day once a week, because everybody wants it open 24/7, 7 days a week, but it can't be. And so we don't want to, I'm concerned about inviting in more potential to have to shut down the facility, because that is.
You're cleaning out wrappers every day.
Yeah, because you get one in a pump and now it's thousands of dollars to replace the pump, and days while we wait for pump parts. And that really upsets people.
And that's why
I
we
don't think
don't-
it's worth it, is my point.
That's why we don't allow like food trucks in that parking lot right there, because it's so close, and like any kind of food. Like I said, we're not naive. There's people that put food in. But
I think along this whole thing, I align where I would like to see these things in the city, because I do think that giving people an opportunity to set up a business and do things like this is awesome. Be it a lemonade stand or even a food truck. But at the same time, the parks are designed specifically for recreation, and if the food truck is taking away parking from being able to, like, if we're always have a parking lot of capacity, I would say that's not a good location for a food truck, because we would rather have the people that are paying the taxes using the spots that are there to play in the park than have someone else coming in and selling stuff to the people who want to be in the park. So I think that's kind of where I'm going, is first of all, I agree that if we're going to have this type of I'll call it a service, the the fee has to cover the cost of the service. That includes maintenance, it covers the personnel time. We don't have the luxury of subsidizing the staff to take care of all this stuff. So anything we do here, it does need to be, needs to cover the cost of service. It can't take away parking from people who want to use it. Now, I admit there are some parking lots that are never get over 3/4 full. That's a good place for this. But I don't want someone cussing out the city because there's a food truck parked where and they're parking 3 blocks down the street trying to get their kids to a soccer game. So I think the citizens get priority on parking. The service has to cover the cost, or the fee has to cover the cost of the service. And then, yeah, just, it has to be safe. So as long as we can meet all those guidelines, I'm okay with this, but if that's not the case, then.
So Cresta's comment was, and maybe this is the linchpin, Cresta's comment was, well, the people only want to do business in the high traffic areas because that's where they're gonna get big money. So if we can't provide, and I think you're right, that the foremost, it's a park and the parking should be there for the citizens who are using that. So if we can't provide desirable locations, is it even worth evaluating it?
Well, I do think
further?
there are locations like, we have parking lots that are adjacent to freeways that I think are a very good place for, you know, a coffee shop or a donut shop or whatever it may be. And I think there are some parks that have enough parking that there would be space for some of this.
Okay.
But again, I think, I don't want to have to park 3 blocks away because there's 6 food trucks in the parking lot taking up all the parking.
Yeah.
The citizens have to get the priority over the
So
business.
that's I would rather not do it at all. I feel like the liability is too high. I feel that, for all the reasons that Krista said, all the problems that it can bring. You know, we're not a big city. We don't have the additional workers to come in and do the additional work that it's gonna take. And our goal as a city is to maintain the integrity of our public spaces so that people can enjoy them. And the structures in those public spaces. And there's just a lot of wear and tear, right? And you know, when you talk about one food truck, well, what if it was 15? What if it was 20? You know, then it's disruptive to that public area in many ways. It's gonna disrupt public access to the area and all of that kind of, it's, you know, we have to just maintain the integrity so that all of Syracuse citizens can enjoy the public spaces. All public, you know, people want to be able to enjoy the public spaces and not have, let's just say it's 1, well, maybe it's not 1. Maybe in 5 years it's 10.
Well, so if we were to do it, we would designate
A spot.
a spot. We wouldn't allow, hey, we're opening up 15 spots in one parking lot. And as far as, I'm kind of torn because what I'm thinking about is the snow cone shack at Bluff Ridge Park. I know, I mean, that's close to my home. A lot of the kids, they love that. I know it's not without problems and we're likely not charging enough. But those types of things, I think, add to the public enjoyment of that park. The kids love to go down there.
Because we were a little town when that came in 15 years ago. And now we continue to grow. So now we have every week somebody coming in and asking to do a startup on the public land.
But there's ways that we can put policy in place to limit that and give everyone a fair shake.
I would like to see a path forward to use some of these locations. Let me state that up front is I want to be able to do this because I agree. I love the snow cone shacks. I think a little coffee shop or a hot chocolate stand or whatever it may be is phenomenal, but we can't do it at the expense of the citizens of Syracuse. So that's where the fees have to be in place such that it covers the cost of the employees, and we have to be able to do it safely.
I'm gonna interject here with, and take the privilege of kind of merging a couple of discussions, because we talked before the meeting, when we didn't quite have a quorum, that there are 3 very closely related discussion points here tonight, and they're gonna have to have a cohesive resolution that they all work together, whatever that is. So I'm gonna kind of just introduce the solution that came forward with the applicant on item 3, which was they came forward and said, we wanted to be in a more public parking lot first, but we couldn't find the people. So I gave the assignment to Noah to help do this, and I pointed out to everyone on the council, he did an awesome job. And the work that he did is useful to more than just this applicant, because future applicants could say, where are the locations in your city where we might be able to do this on private property? And he's got all the map, the content, the placement, where, you know, how you get there. The traffic flow is all measured in a lot of these spaces. What that did for this applicant was they said, okay, we have options now. We thought that we had to come to the city, but we do now realize we have options. That doesn't mean they've canceled their application, but the point is, we could do this in private ways and support it through economic development to say, here's opportunities for you, but keep it out of managed by the city. So that's an option, and I just wanted to kind of tail those two together.
I agree that we would prefer them to be able to use those locations, especially if they're underutilized. But I do believe the city has underutilized locations, that this could be of value to both the city and the vendor.
Okay, so in the idea of moving forward, I'm gonna break down a few of the questions. I think there's a couple we have not solved, but there are a couple that I think we have. Number one, there is the proposal, and I will point out that though it was suggested in public comment, but these are the mayor's proposals. These actually came from a city staff meeting that happened before I was involved in the discussion. So I credit staff for coming up with the ideas of possible solutions. But the first one that came forward was, we should have an exclusion zone around our most expensive park feature, the splash pad, because of the nature of costs. So are we okay if we went ahead with a exclusion zone of no selling merchandise within 300 feet is the proposal of the splash pad?
Where does that put the vendor? Where does that put
The maps put that on the outsides of the park away from the actual, we could pull that up. The map was in the packet.
What about the farmer's market?
Well, I think that the farmer's market, that's one of the reasons why I think that location doesn't work as a satellite rental, because the farmer's market every week actually has done really well, and I'm pleased. I got to credit Councilman Carver, who helped spearhead reorganizing the farmer's market, because it's really done well, and it's helped a lot of people grow their local business. But it uses every bit of parking around.
But is it?
It is within the 300 feet. But you can carve out the licensed exception for that scheduled day. So that would mean that they're responsible not to go beyond the boundaries of the market on that day. If you want to go 200 feet, then that's outside of that zone and it doesn't have any effect anymore. So that's another way we could address it. But it does bring us closer in the playground area, which is a concern. The playground areas are also one of those where things being sold can damage equipment.
Yeah, I mean,
And have in the past.
Yeah, it's where that's a porn.
We've
place.
spent a lot of
Anything
money on
dumped
porn
in there.
places.
You know,
Yeah.
you can't just dig out the sand and
we see
replace.
that now, even without having things sold
Yeah.
around it. We see that now. We see gooey, sticky things.
So
you
can
know,
we just do 200 feet and then include the splash pad and the adjacent playground?
We could.
That presumptively allows this to occur though, doesn't
It does.
it? And I'm not there yet.
Okay.
so.
That's fair.
All right. So I'm going to say we don't have resolution on that part of the proposal. So let's move to the part of, should we be doing this at all? Or should we just leave it to the private sector? Because it gets it out of the city's hands, which is nice, but at the same time, there is a desire to utilize these properties. What's your feeling on that either way?
Who's desiring to utilize the property? Is it Brody? Is it Cresta? Who
No,
desiring?
I'm saying
Is it
applicant.
us? Okay, it's applicants.
It's
We're
not us.
Not us.
My-
You're not.
And-
My viewpoint is,
No.
I'm generally against the idea, if somebody were to come and propose a viable, economically viable, with all their ducks in a row, I may look at something, but I mean, they would have to say, this is what we're going to pay, this is the business we're going to conduct, this is what the traffic is, we're paying liability insurance, you know, check all of the boxes, then maybe I entertain that, but at this point, I don't see that, so I would vote against it.
I'm gonna reinforce that point and just say that to this point, we have not had anybody come in with the liability. They've come in as seasonal under our liability insurance. So they don't come in with their own protection policy. It's usually that it comes in as a seasonal.
The snow cone does.
The snow cone does. Okay, so we'll correct that one. The snow cone does have their own liability, and that's fine. And maybe that's one of the criteria that has to be met in order to be on city property, is you have your own liability insurance.
With Syracuse as an additional insurer, that's how you.
Right, because we have to be protected as well.
But so in that scenario though, and so if I'm understanding you correctly, Brett, so you're saying you want to take proposals kind of as they come and consider it.
But no specific policy.
I would say that there's not a policy until we see a viable option. I wouldn't adjust anything. Somebody's got something to come in and they have a pitch that makes sense, I would look at that then, but I don't see a reason to do anything at this point.
But I think our current contracts are a bit of an issue because we are treating every single one of those differently. So if we're going to continue with the ones that already exist, we need a cohesive policy. If we're just going to discontinue everything, then that's also a choice.
And part of the reason this is coming up also is, and maybe you don't consider it a viable proposal, but we do have a proposal that we're considering in this, which is kind of what spawned the debate of, do we change a policy and an act to have specific areas that we would lease, which is that little coffee shop that wants to go in the Syracuse Farmers or the
Museum.
Heritage Museum.
Yeah, right now, our ordinance says that we shall have an agreement.
Yeah.
What kind of agreement? What does it say? So like, if you wanted to amend the ordinance, you could say what standardized agreement would include, but you're right, that there are a variety of flavors of when we've leased out city land, what and how much.
And the other thing on the museum is, while I agree that during the farmer's market, it is completely packed. The other 98% of the time, it is extremely underutilized. And so this is an opportunity to try and get some better use out of that parking lot and hopefully provide a service to citizens.
I want to have Colin weigh into liability because I don't think that we're very clear on that. If we allow a business that doesn't have its own liability package to operate in our parking lot and an accident happens, for example, the most worry that we have is that a child would be hit by a vehicle. Is the city now liable because they're not insured separately? Or because we allowed them to do business on our property, are we now liable?
Creative personal injury lawyers will always sue the person with the biggest pockets. So the answer to the question is, who can a plaintiff's counsel think of suing? And the city will always be on that list. I think the best coverage we can provide for the city is to require them to have insurance and to indemnify the city and to name the city as an additional insured on their insurance policies.
In which case, does it even become an affordable policy if they have to name us as an additional insured?
I think if this coffee shop can figure out a way to pencil it, then bring it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think liability actually has to be part of all of this.
As we
The
grow,
details.
as we grow, that's the bigger risk we take on.
And especially because that particular business wants to be open 24/7, 365. They want to be open in the snow, in the ice.
Yeah.
But I'm still hearing almost three distinct directions. I think maybe Jordan and I are somewhat aligned in that we should maybe create a policy and offer opportunities as long as it doesn't, cost the city money. we've got, tell me if I'm wrong, Julie who's saying. No, it's not a good idea at all. It's not good use of public space. And then Brett saying, let's take it on kind of a. One by one, if we see a proposal that we like. Am I close on that?
But I will say that that doesn't address the existing ones.
Yeah.
So I do think there needs to be a policy, and around the splash pad, I know we were talking about presumptive approval. I think that will also apply to any of the young entrepreneurs. We do need to make sure that the equipment is protected and the splash pad is protected. So that would even apply to the young entrepreneurs who don't need a permit, but could set up around the park.
I have a question for Noah, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I just was wondering, I heard have you guys contacted the other cities? Do they allow it? I just wonder, because if they don't allow it, then we may be getting
Nobody allows it.
more
Yeah.
people down here is what I'm saying.
I can clarify that too, because this, as most of you know, we kind of have the mayor's group chat throughout the county that we ask each other what other cities do when we have a complex issue. This is not commonly addressed. Most cities do not have a policy that allows operation of businesses in their recreation spaces. There's only one or two that came up and said we allow it, but on very strict requirements.
I would also like.
Excuse me, this is not an open meeting.
Yeah, I think in the last packet, I provided a table.
Yeah.
And our business license person, Heather, she had called, and it was the surrounding city. So it's not an exhaustive list, but from all the surrounding cities, we didn't find anybody leased any city property at all, whether park or otherwise. They just don't even want to deal with it.
I will say that the common element that I found to the responses I got when I talked to other mayors was, as cities grow and become bigger, they're forced into positions of things that they can consistently defend and consistently apply. So, I mean, even cities, some of the cities that were once smaller cities and had smaller businesses in parks have said, at the point where we had people saying that we were unfairly biased towards one or another, even when it was biased because of a history of longevity of a business, the backlash became, my tax dollars are supporting my competition. And so the bigger the city gets, the more the city is vulnerable to that critique, that we're actually empowering somebody's competition to put their brick and mortar business out.
I agree with that. This is why I feel like it has a potential to become disruptive to all public spaces and to the enjoyment of people that are, there to enjoy that public space. It can become a disruptive.
Can I?
Brody.
Yeah. Can I just say something? The staff's ready to discontinue these. The staff's ready to put together a policy and location proposals. And the staff's ready to put together something to take these on a case-by-case basis. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to assign staff to do any of that until we get majority direction.
You don't want to waste your time.
That is.
I'm pretty solid in my feeling about it, so.
Are any of these existing relationships profitable to the city?
No,
Then
they are all a negative to the city.
then I'm done.
Okay. There is not one that profits the city. They all cost more than they pay.
It's like Jen is the tiebreaker on this one.
Again, if somebody were to come in and say, I have something that pencils for the city, I may entertain it at that point, but I don't see that.
Well, I think fundamentally, all of us are in agreement that this cannot be a sink to the
No.
city.
Yeah. And it
No
has-
matter what happens.
Yeah, it can't be.
We cannot subsidize
No.
any businesses through free use of public lands.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to a couple of things that we can circle around. One, we obviously don't have a resolution on policy, but I'm going to suggest that we come back to the next work session with a proposed. Well, I don't even want to do that because we don't know where it's gonna land. I think that we have to address the safety of our investment in the splash pad. That's a very expensive, and And that's been a hot topic because there are a couple of cities who are looking to install their own. And they're all like, how did you put so much money into that? I mean, well, it was worth it because we got the business out of it. It generated a lot for our community. But it was a huge investment that most are not even willing to take on. So I think we have to protect that. So I would suggest that whether it's 300 or 200 feet, that we put a policy in place in a future meeting that protects that asset.
Agree.
Does anybody disagree? Okay,
No,
so
we could do that now.
we will do that in the next meeting.
Well, for right now, we do need to clarify that. The state law requires 10 feet, so that
Right.
is
So
non-negotiable.
that's
So
non-negotiable.
no one can sell inside the splash pad
Yes,
at all, no matter what our policy states.
that's correct.
Beyond that, how far we need to try and keep those types of debris away from the splash pad, that's up to our discretion.
I think what I'm hearing is come with a proposed ordinance and you'll fill in the blank on the number of feet.
On the
that you
number
want.
of feet.
That's
Yes.
Yes.
So I think that's what we do for the next business meeting, because we can approve that when we agree to the distance. The next one is
I'm sorry, business meeting or work?
business meeting on that
Okay.
element, just that part of it. So it's a protective zone that we're putting in place. The investment's too big. The second part of that is going to be, can we have a consistent management of policies? What I'm hearing is there are two that say we're probably out of the business and two that say you'd like to have selective placement.
But all of them cannot be a sink. That is the fundamental.
That's right.
And I do think the insurance has to be.
So are we 100% agreed that whatever happens in the city has to be net profit for the city, not net negative?
I'm okay if it,
I'm okay if it breaks even or better.
Yeah.
even or
But
better.
it cannot be a loss.
It cannot be a
Cannot
loss.
So that could be a fee schedule adjustment.
All right, so that can be just taking place by saying that we're going to evaluate the properties that are under current contract and what that fee would be. Now, I'm gonna propose this, that in a future discussion then, once we know what those new fees would be and have a reaction to existing contracts with the new fee schedule, that might sway the conversation a little different.
Because if it's so out of whack and nobody's gonna lease
Nobody's
them,
gonna
then
do
it's
it,
like,
then it's
then
the
it's a moot
policy.
point, and we just say, okay, then we're not leasing anything.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Great.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that as part of the analysis, though, I think it kind of like what's been done, there needs to be a market rate. I don't think,
I agree.
the city may take a look at it and be a little lighter on expense than what it would be at a private market to do it. And that's still subsidizing one business over another, and that's problematic for me.
That's fair. And so I guess the criteria is we have to kind of look into what people are charging in the private spaces. And what would be comparable for our spaces.
So in the analysis side, assigned $20 per square foot per year. And then just multiplied it by the square footage of a couple stalls, those stalls 9 by 20, so.
And that is market rate is what you're purporting?
Yeah, I mean, for a retail space, but this is a parking lot. But we also called some other parking lots that do rent out to food trucks, and it checks out. Usually, so right now our fee schedule says $250. Most places are charging around 1,000, 800 to 1,000.
Wow.
So we're way low.
That's a way different.
Yeah, in the places cited in the memo, it ranged from, for privately owned places, between $400 and $1,300.
Depending on location.
Just depends on how good it is.
So with this, I think that we'll have a fifth vote. Because we're not taking a vote tonight. I'm not gonna be the tiebreaker tonight. But we'll come back and we'll see where that lands. Is that agreeable on that? Okay, so then I think that we continue on to the next, which is the question of the specific applicant. Are we far enough along that we can take a action on this applicant as to yay or nay, whether we should move forward?
I think we'd have to set the lease rate.
I don't think we're far enough along. I think we need that
Fair
next
enough.
piece.
I agree.
Because that's gonna determine whether we want to even move forward with allowing new leases or not.
Okay,
I'm
seeing
generally
agreement.
in favor, as long as we can get all of the other stuff worked out,
Okay.
which I don't think we are ready to do yet.
All right, so I'm gonna say we are to an agreement that we will need to have that be part of the next discussion as well. I hate to draw these out, but I do think that this is one we want to get right. And I think it is important to do the right thing. So the last part of this is the element of how does the young entrepreneurs work into this, and do we need to take any action that we have not already taken? Because there's no necessary action that has to happen. The state law, you know, what we allow for people to buy, we will have to allow for youth. So that's going to be part of the equation.
Yeah, I mean, we want these kids to get out there and do this kind of stuff. But we do need to make sure they can do it safely without the risk to either public facilities or safety for the people attending their facilities. So I do think there are some restrictions on locations, but
I'm largely concerned about the liability, because they will not have liability.
I totally agree. And so that's why I'm okay with them doing it, but we need to make sure that it is in locations that can be done without risk to them or their customers.
So the state lemonade stand law is we cannot, and nor do I want to do this, because my kids do the same thing. They sell lemonade and things out in front of our house. So we can't require a business license.
Right.
But I mean, could a kid come and sell lemonade on the front steps of
No.
City Hall?
No.
So where within public spaces are
Private
they already
property with-
restricted?
Private
From pub-
property with authorization from the
Okay, so then so we couldn't have 20 lemonade stands in one of our parks because.
not currently.
Not
Okay.
currently.
So what is the procedure for someone to set up a lemonade stand in a park? I think that's worth figuring out.
So let me make one clarification first, and that is that the city has already adopted a kind of an unwritten policy that private property permissions continue to the street, even though that we have public right of ways in front of private property. The controlling entity is the owner of the adjacent property. So if a neighbor said you could come sell in front of my house, you could.
Okay.
Because that, even though it's technically the city's right of way, you could, because it's in front of their house.
Sure.
Yeah,
In a
put
park-
it behind the sidewalk and you're on private property.
Right.
In the
But-
park strip, you're still city property.
Well, and we're saying we really are okay
That's
because
fuzzy, yeah.
that's not hurting anybody, but a public park, the question is, we don't currently allow anybody to just set up anywhere. So consistently, we don't allow any kid to just set up anywhere. That would be the consistency part.
Yeah, current ordinance just says if anybody, doesn't say how old or what they're selling or how old they are. You have to have an agreement with the city.
You have to have permission to set up.
Yeah.
And that's why we have organized events like the Young Entrepreneurs Market, which I attended and visited every single booth this year. It was wonderful. Those kids had a great experience. I was so proud of them. But it was organized and it drew a huge crowd, and it was hosted in a way that they all were treated equally. So that's the kind of thing that I think does happen in public parks. But to say on any miscellaneous soccer game, I'm going to set up a cooler and start charging, well, we don't let adults do that. So we also likely, have to be consistent with all applicants.
I think so.
Well, and again, I think young entrepreneurs are great.
Yeah.
But you also have to operate you have to learn to operate within the bounds of the law. So a public space would require a permit for anyone.
For anyone,
And,
no matter
and that's
who
where
they
we're at right now. So
Yes.
is there any need to make an amendment to that? We would just enforce what we've got now.
At current, no, because we don't allow just anyone, so we would just not allow just anyone.
Yeah, like I was saying before, a business license is different than
Yeah.
a permit or agreement to be on somebody's property.
Well, because we still run into the same issues if we have a kid's lemonade stand that sets up in a park or a parking lot of a park, it's a liability
It is the
issue
liability.
for the city. If
Right.
a kid gets hit running across the parking lot to go to that lemonade stand, that's a liability for us, so. Yeah, I don't know that,
We get sued for the safety violation.
well, and I would feel horrible if that happened to.
I would, yes.
to-
But on the other hand, I want kids to be able to set up lemonade stands and
And
some of these,
on private property.
but. I don't know, I feel like there is a place in parks for a lemonade stand. So I guess I'm not completely in agreement with that.
Are you open to people buying permits for any park at any place?
I think the youth are treated separately from that.
That's the problem with the law, is that the law is suggesting that youth are entitled to the same that you entitle business, they just don't have to buy the business license because they're a youth.
So you're purporting that since we don't allow businesses in the park, we don't have to allow lemonade stands.
I'm saying that that's the consistent, look, you know me, one of the biggest things I want is consistency. It's something that's the same for everybody. And I'm okay if we land on either side, as long as we're able to apply it consistently. If we can't apply it to the business side, then we can't make it an exception for the youth side, because then they're open to the scrutiny of you allow this for kids, but not for adults. We have to,
And it gets further complicated if you allow a permit for someone to set up. Let's say that whatever food truck sells lemonade, and now you got the competition undercutting. them
right,
next
undercutting
door.
them with, yeah, because then he's paid his fees with no ability to make the money back, because
He's
you're
gonna
not treating them equally.
The quarter cup of lemonade next door.
I know, what do you do?
It is
Well,
an interesting issue.
well, I wonder, we're gonna run into this. We're gonna run into this, another problem, in my opinion. If you say, okay, yes, we will allow young entrepreneurs under the age of, whatever, 18 to do this, how many permits do you issue per park?
Can you? limit
'Cause-
it?
or can you limit it, or because, I don't know.
Now, doesn't the state, we keep using the word permit, but I think the state law says they do not need a permit,
It says license or permit.
license
Oh,
or.
okay.
License, I think, is clearly business license.
Okay,
Permit is ambiguous.
well, I think permit and permission are slightly different.
Well, and I think my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Colin. So if you're entertaining the idea of allowing young entrepreneurs in parks, then you can do none. Or you can do 100, unlimited, or you can set something like specific location, specific time. You have all the control on management of city
To
property.
do that, though, there would be a very strict, you have to sign up and get permission for that spot because it's
Correct.
limited.
Correct.
Yeah,
If that's the case, does that violate the law?
Well, and now it's costing the city to manage.
Well,
And someone will come in and say, oh, you're requiring me to get a permit, and the law says I don't have to have it.
Right.
And see,
now
that's the
it's
conflict.
Syracuse employees are handling all that paperwork.
I just wanna say how difficult it will be to enforce too.
Great.
Because it's really hard if someone's set up and then there's a kid pulling
Right.
it will be really, yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
really
They start throwing
hard
rocks
to
at each
enforce.
other.
Because even if you don't put this in there, there's still gonna be kids that come and do it, because that's just, the nature, they're just coming and trying to, sell their candy bars or sell their drinks, so it's gonna be difficult to enforce, and so if that's why it's hard when someone calls in and asks for permission, or like, no, the code says no. But then there's kids that are doing it, I don't wanna go kick that kid, yeah, they just show up, I don't wanna go kick that kid off from doing that, they're just trying to, sell their water for $1. It's hard.
Man, I wish this was easy.
Well, it's the growing pain. It
The
has to,
statute, sorry, Dave.
go ahead.
I'm just gonna say the state statute doesn't touch on whether anything has to do with public parks or.
Correct.
No,
So I mean, that's a separate issue.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, what would keep, let's say somebody comes into my office and says, I wanna set up a solar business, and I say, okay, well, go get your 18-year-old son to incorporate a company. Now he falls under that statute, and now he's selling solar.
Has to be
Without-
occasional.
Right, but let's say
Yeah.
I don't know what occasionally means.
But sure, there's gonna be that happening.
We have a couple of lawyers who are well versed in the occasionally can mean a lot of things.
That argument actually came up at the legislature. Somebody in the public hearing at the legislature several years ago said, well, what you're gonna get is a bunch of parents and aunts and
Right.
uncles who are having their kids and their nephews and their nieces sell lemonade professionally. And the legislature said, we don't really think that's gonna happen. But for what it's worth, that has been raised.
Well, and from experience, that's why it's gonna be hard to like have them permitted and charged a certain amount. Because a lot of them will just come through, a couple days. They're not gonna want to sit there and sell it, but there are some that wanna set, and maybe you have to do it, regulate it that way if they're gonna actually be there every single day. So I don't know.
If they're gonna be there every single day, I would say that's not
It's
an
not
occasional.
occasional.
It's not occasional, so
And
they
therefore
would
they
have to be
get a
permitted.
permit.
Yeah.
It's the kid who's gonna come in Thursday afternoon for a couple of hours this week. And Wednesday morning, well, you're closed on Wednesday, Tuesday morning next week.
Yeah.
And then not be there for 2 weeks and then do another hour and a half somewhere else.
It makes it easier to regulate it by private property and just eliminate the public property.
And what about rock chip repair? You see those guys set up all the time.
They're usually on private.
Hopefully they're on private property.
If they're
I
on
don't know
private
that.
property, they get away with it.
Right.
There's lots of credit.
Well, and you bring up the question because I get a lot of complaints about this. I'm not saying that I'm on either side of this issue. But I get a lot of complaints when we see people who just pulled off to the side of the road and start selling a truckload of produce. Because some of the other people in the city say, you're taking away from my business that I pay a business license for. And so they call and they complain. The risk is, if they are too close to the road, it can be a hazard. So there is a driving risk. The other thing is when it's done on city property, I don't want to open that back up because we shouldn't allow that on city property because then one of the complaints is, some of the major grocery stores that say, hey, how can you shut me down from, I have a pallet of fresh fruit that
Yeah.
has to move.
It's like I've got my load
And
of
you've
corn.
got somebody at the side of the road selling it with no taxes, with no fees, with no business license, no brick and mortar costs, no bathrooms, all the things, no fire marshal enforcement, all the things they have to do to be in business.
And if we're gonna amend the ordinance, right now the ordinance just says if you're selling things in a park. I think it'd be a good idea to expand it to right of ways, city-owned parking lots, city-owned land, because there's other places that they could be selling.
So this is way complicated. I'm sorry. I really do wish the question was simpler tonight. But it is. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. We have spent nearly an hour on this, so I'm going to put this forward to a future work session in August, where we're gonna circle back around and try to nail down some of this. In the meantime, I'm gonna ask staff to put out a couple of questions that I'll ask you all to answer via email independently so that we can just get a sense of and don't copy each other because then we're in a meeting and we can't be in a meeting. But if you at least just answer them, I think we'll assign them to Brody and just if he gets 5 answers, we'll at least see what's common and see if we can come to some kind of resolution. Does that seem right? Because this is a tough one that's going to take some more thought. All right. Thank you. With that, Krista and Noah, I think you're done at the table. And we will go to item D, which is items involving Department of Transportation. Continued discussion, proposed amendments to Syracuse Municipal Code pertaining to enforcement of parking regulations on state-owned properties. Just the way this is phrased, I'm wondering if this is future moot because our proposal and their acceptance is that we would make these not state-owned properties, but city-owned properties in the future.
The title is
Okay.
broader than it needs to be. It should be public property.
Public properties. So how do we feel about this in council? We've talked about this before. I think we have to bring this one around to conclusion.
Yeah. Pull up and go through all the specific text I read earlier today, but I thought by and large, I thought the text amendments were good. I did think that there is a possibility of doing the permitting of some of the overnight parking that we discussed. overall, I thought this was a needed amendment to what before was not very well addressed.
Anyone else? Did we finally get this one right?
Yeah, I think this helps address the problem of us not being able to properly regulate public parking.
But do we wanna, does this cover the permitting? Of parking that I think there is, again, these will be underutilized. What we don't want them to be is rest stops.
I think that what you're suggesting, I hear where you're going, but I think we have to take ownership first to do the next step
Okay,
you're talking
then let's
about.
leave it at this, and I think this is adequate.
Okay, because that's what I think we have to do.
Okay.
If we try to do it before, that could inhibit finishing it.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna say that let's put this on the consent agenda on August 12th. Item E, review and discuss types of permits required in Syracuse City. Consideration of proposal to impose fees for working performed without a work permit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna invite Brian Lemons, our city inspector, to the table for this discussion. There was a little bit of confusion in our last meeting about what requires a permit, what doesn't. And I have to say, I was very impressed with the staff's put together memo explaining what we can and can't do, because people do have some rights to work on their own property without interference. But this is really pertaining to contractors that you hire to do work that needs to be inspected, which a lot of people don't realize is there to protect them, because insurance companies will dismiss your claim if you knew you needed a permit and you didn't get one. Or even if you didn't know, sometimes they will just say, you didn't get a permit, so it wasn't inspected, so the fault is on you, the homeowner. We're trying to protect homeowners here.
Many times the contractor will actually charge the homeowner and then still not get the permit. And then we catch them doing the work without a permit. And that's when we want to assess. The
Yeah. So we do need to be able to assess heavier fines for people who do not get permits for work that requires permits. And then I'm gonna let Brian talk about the differences in some of this labor. So thank you.
I'm not sure your question.
Okay, so you put together some of the whens you need one and when you don't, because when are we talking about a contractor readily knows they need a permit and we're seeing that they're operating without a permit?
All right, and if a homeowner wants to do work on their house, they can do anything in their house that they want to do, and we can still inspect it. They're still required to get permits. Or they have the option to hire a contractor that's licensed, and then they have to get a permit, and we still inspect it. The issue that we're having right now is a lot of rear roofs, mechanical furnaces, water heaters, and like that. And we're finding out that they're not getting permits. Or I mean, that or else they get a permit, but they don't get it inspected. And then the people pay them, and then they leave, and we've done an inspection that there's stuff that's failed that's not been fixed. And the contractor's already got the money and. So trying to fix this.
It's really protection of our residents more than anything that we do require the inspections to be done.
I have a question. How, do we know how many, just water heater replacement and like HVAC system replacement permits we deal with in a year? And if everyone does what they're supposed to, which I think is, I don't know, I probably don't think we need to put on all those. But if everybody who replaced a water heater and a furnace, how many inspections would we be doing a year? And can we even facilitate that?
Well, I can tell you for June what we did as far as building permit applications. So roof, we had 30. In May we had 38, April 35. March.
I'm just talking water heaters and
Okay,
HVAC.
furnace is probably lumped into there. Last month we had 18.
18 heaters.
Water heater, we had 2, but there's probably a lot more.
I
water heaters.
guarantee you, we probably had 30 or 40 and
Yeah.
too bothered to get a permit.
So I think the big problem is a lot of people don't, like some people just go pick up a water heater, take it on the hand truck down the stairs,
Do it themselves.
3 connections. This one goes out, this one goes in, and
Blow up your house.
You seem very familiar with what I'm saying. Is
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Is there anything you'd like to tell?
That being said, I mean, So, but the problem is this often happens on a weekend where we don't have inspections, or for some reason it's at 3 a.m. It never happens during business hours.
There's
how
a
do we
provision
deal?
for after hours.
Let's talk about that.
Or
You can do it.
emergencies, Yeah.
Do it, but then after the fact, you can still get it. And then it comes.
So that it comes and gets inspected.
So we need to make sure that that's advertised because it is not always feasible. Again, if your AC is out, and again,
Right.
it's always gonna happen
In the middle.
Friday night or Saturday.
Well,
Fix it, yeah, do
Yeah,
it.
get it
particularly
fixed.
water. Yeah, we want water
Yeah.
Power.
and power, so we have to.
So all
fix
these
it.
things, so they will be fixed, but you're saying, I think we need to get the word out that said, hey, look, the city is not trying to use this as a revenue source. What we're trying to do, just like you mentioned, is we're trying to make sure the citizens are protected and that we can inspect the work to make sure that we don't have a home explosion a week from now.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, we've seen that happen several times just here in Utah.
Read the news, like it
That's
happens.
what I'm talking
What
about.
if we have a home explosion and we've inspected it and passed it off?
That's,
By state law, no liability.
Do we have
Right.
no liability?
yeah,
yeah, liability is coming up a lot today.
it is.
For good
So
reason.
here's what I'm gonna,
But yeah,
I
I think we
think
need to
that-
make sure that we outline all of the details of emergency work.
I think a step that I think we can agree on tonight that has to happen is we have to do more education through all of our multiple sources, whether it's online, social media, magazine, all the sources that we publish. We're gonna have to do more education that inspections are easy to arrange, because they are. I've done it myself. And that they're to safeguard you, the
Yeah.
homeowner, not because we're trying to collect fees.
'Cause yeah, a lot of people think we're using this as a funding source, and
Yeah,
we're
it's
not.
We don't make money on it. If
Yeah,
we break
inspections
even.
are kind of a break-even service.
Yeah. But it is important because,
Things
Yeah.
blow up.
yeah. All right, so I think we can agree to that. Is that, all right, so that doesn't take a vote. We can just go forward with that. So the next one is, should we adjust and what should we adjust for? Because I think that anything that takes more than 24 hours is an obvious step up violation than something that you can do in a half an hour in your own home and get a permit to inspect later. It's the things that are day-long projects and more that you didn't bother to get a permit for. You knew that was gonna be a permit. Thoughts?
Did we break that down? Did we break that down?
We haven't, but we could.
Well,
We just have a $100 fine for conducting, building stuff without a. Now, if you like go to build a house, like if you read through chapter 9, which is our city ordinance for building permits, like it could be a class B misdemeanor, like you. So it does kind of already
sure.
separate like the big things and the little things, but $100 is what it currently is. We were proposing to change it from 100 to 500.
And the chief building official has discretion on when to issue fines and. And, you know, Brian hasn't issued fines on the homeowner trying to, you know, do their own work. It's licensed contractors.
That are just trying to.
Who are licensed and know the code. And are not doing what they are supposed to be doing to ensure the safety of their customer.
And then, so are we gonna change it such that the contractor is fined,
Yeah,
not
the
the homeowner?
contractor's fine. And I would interject that this is something that we have to do because Colin and I, the city attorney, were talking about this earlier. That there is the issue when you have unlicensed contractors out there. And this may uncover people who are not getting a permit because they're not licensed. And unlicensed is a big, huge risk to our city because that's where a lot of fraud happens. And we don't want that to happen. We want to protect our citizens as much as possible.
It's important. It's happening more and more.
It is. And the scam to come in and say, I'm gonna start work and never finish and take the money and run. It's happened in our city plenty, and it's really sad because that victim of that crime, then you're out the money to do the work you have to do. And people work really hard for that. We want to protect them.
Agree.
So we could, I'm just throwing this out because it just hit me right now, we could even have a bigger fine for an unlicensed contractor.
Yeah, is that a crime?
Or is that a crime that,
Well, it's a crime, but you can still impose civil fines.
but that's that's the going even further that I think we have to protect, because I've heard about it over the last 3 years, a lot more.
I agree with all of that.
You know,
We do have in our fine structure, conducting business without a business license as well.
Right.
I don't know if that's similar fine.
Well,
Okay, so I'm gonna have this summated into a couple of categories: the fine for contractor without, the fine for without a license. And we'll vote on that in the next meeting.
and we also need to start on the social media, the education campaign to try and get people out, so they know to ask for licenses. And they know that please get your stuff inspected, because there is a risk to you and your family.
Making that assignment right now. Noted. So we'll start on those campaigns, and because it is important, you're right. All right, so let's move on. Thank you. Item F, that's where we are, correct? Yes. Discussion regarding code enforcement ordinances related to business landscaping and maintenance standards. This comes up every year. We have a lot of complaints that businesses are not keeping up and maintaining their properties. Specifically, weeds all surrounding entrances and just,
And some businesses haven't even bothered to put anything in. They finished construction and just left it.
yeah. There are some very uncomfortable things that are left in our city that never were finished. The hanging sidewalk on Antelope is one that particularly gets my attention.
Yeah, I can speak to this because code enforcement's in CED, and you're right, some of these businesses look rough, and our main tools that we have, weeds over 6 inches, or if there's dead trees and things that are gonna fall over and kill somebody, that's like the low hanging fruit. But the businesses are also required, when they construct the building, they're required to do a site plan, and we approve the plants and everything, and they're required to have that landscaping installed before we sign off on their occupancy. Where there's lots of other complicating factors where, like, for example, UDOT came and just expanded a road. They messed up a bunch of people's sprinklers, and those landowners are still like trying to figure it out. Like the O'Reilly, I think that's what you're talking about. Like they just expanded the road and then they messed up their sprinklers and all their landscaping died. But they did actually install the landscaping before they occupied the building. But about 2 months later, UDOT came and took it out. There's lots of cases where it's UDOT's fault, but a lot of the cases it's, the building gets sold and it's just a management group that's out of state, and so I guess the legislative decision for council is, do you want to try to beef up the regulations for certain things that aren't currently covered, like, the aesthetic things, and that might be hard to quantify, like as far as green grass, but
Can you use verbiage like intentional landscaping?
I have two ideas, yeah.
And and specifically exclude noxious weeds.
That's a given. Noxious weeds. If there's a list that's published by the county, and if you know your weeds, you'd be like, that's a Fraxinicus, whatever, because
Romanicus.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we know that that's a noxious weed, and we can tell them to take it out regardless of height. But usually they're over 6 inches anyway. So
yeah.
It's easy. But what a lot of cities do is they'll have a minimum required live plant coverage, because sometimes they'll just want to do all gravel.
Right.
And that's ugly too.
Road base.
But yeah, it's just like, well, my weeds aren't over 6 inches and I don't have any dead trees. What's the problem? So it's like, you could say in our ordinance, they could say you have to maintain that live coverage. And we talked about this when we did the water wise landscaping. Remember, we said you have to have at least one live plant. So somebody could actually get around it by planting like one stupid little thing like right in the middle.
Could be plastic.
It could be, but if we had like a 50% live plant coverage, we could say, okay, or like planned vegetation, so it's not weeds. We can enforce that a little better. Another thing, my second idea was like in Clinton, they use RDA funds to encourage beautification and do economic development. They pay for all of their hanging baskets out of RDA funds. They hired a water truck. It's this thing everybody talks about all the time.
Yeah, we see it.
It's like
it all went away.
We know it all went away.
Yeah,
It's
but they
gone.
ran out. They had to redo
RDA
it.
project areas expire.
Yep.
And then you have to figure out how, so like you could do something like that, or you could even have like an incentive for businesses that like, hey, we want you to spruce up your thing. We'll reimburse you with the RDA funds. We'll consider on a case by case basis, but you know, we could, that's the second option that we can look into.
The challenge that I see with that is that not all businesses are within an RDA, and there are restrictions of where the money can be used according to what gets triggered and what gets collected. Often, the areas that are the worst taken care of are not inside of a zone.
It's true, but the expenditure of RDA funds, you just have to justify that it benefits that RDA. So if it's down the street and you can justify that it helps the entire neighborhood, right?
Well, I
You
mean,
can
there is the
spend-
broken window effect as soon as one person has a broken window and leaves it, then you're like, okay, well, he's got something, I guess I can. So I can see your argument.
As long, like those rules as far as inside spending those funds inside the boundaries, or as long as you can justify it. And we have multiple, we have a RDA, we have a CDA, we have an EDA, and
Sure.
you know, so we can expend those funds.
I think the first thing we need to do is spruce, like, just prune up our language a little bit to be where we do have. I think you used, it wasn't intentional landscaping, you used a different word, I can't remember what it was.
Planned or
Planned. And then removal of noxious weeds, your landscaping cannot include those, even if it is intentional or planned. Those are not allowed.
What if those businesses are struggling to make it and they don't have money to go in and re-landscape everything? I think a more minimum standard, like getting rid of the weeds that are over 6 inch, any safety hazards like dead trees. If a business is struggling to get by and we as the city come in and say, hey, we've come up with this new city code and we want you to re-landscape this, which is gonna be tens of thousands of dollars. As a small business owner, I would have a hard time coming up with that.
I'm out.
Sure, I get that side of it, but the other time, nothing can't be an option. Because I've seen what nothing
I didn't
is.
say nothing, but
So-
a minimum standard of getting rid of weeds, any public hazards.
Mowing
And
dead
it's,
trees,
and it's okay if it's just dirt around your
Sure.
spot.
And I'll
Dirt's
reiterate,
fine.
I mean, if your customers like coming to your establishment with just dirt, then
I guess as a city, I see that as a problem because I would like it to look nice. I think there needs to be a minimum standard, and if you can't meet the minimum standard, that is a problem. You come to us, let us help you. That maybe that's where the RDA funds kick in, and we're willing to help
what
if
if
you're
I'm
in
not in an
RDA.
RDA?
Okay, come talk to us.
I don't think we should have to subsidize them.
But at the same time, I don't like the idea of, it's okay to do nothing because we understand it's hard.
Well, I didn't say nothing, but you can't let it get
You
over.
said that.
No, you can't let it get overgrown with weeds. You can't have dead shrubs, or weeds and dead shrubs and
Okay.
dead trees.
But just a dirt lot is fine.
and if there's a property that has weeds or a dead tree that's a hazard or something, go on the website, report the concern, and our code enforcement officer will work with the property owner. We have right now, like, we have a ton of property owners that are not taking care of the property, and we are hounding them and we are working with them to bring them into compliance. So I'll just reiterate that we have a system, report it, because complaining about it on Facebook doesn't do anything.
No, please don't use that as your fix-it ticket.
I would assume you would want like the landscaping fabric covered.
Yeah,
I don't
Bark
know,
mulch,
I don't know that would be,
That shouldn't break the bank.
that seems like it would be doable.
I think there's some really minimum.
I believe there needs to be a minimum
Very,
standard.
very inexpensive.
It
ways
should
to
be a
make it
very
property.
minimum, a very minimal.
I'm good with that, but
Applying
there has
mulch.
to be a standard.
Right.
Applying
Okay,
fresh
so-
mulch is probably doable.
where do we get that from?
So like Carl's Jr., we've told them, hey, replenish your mulch, and they're like, does the ordinance require that? I'm like, well,
They have none left.
the mulch is gone, so. Well, it looks bad, so. I'm like, what is my violation? What is the ordinance
Say, have you
violation?
driven through McDonald's? You guys look bad.
I know, but they're like,
They
we
don't-
don't care.
They don't.
And so that's what I'm trying to,
McDonald's.
Yeah.
I
for
think
you.
some of these businesses can, but they just don't want to. And so I think there needs to be a minimum standard, and it's not dirt or just fabric stapled in with a couple nails in the corner.
Yeah, especially in.
So
The-
I get it. I
the
don't want to
middle
put
of-
someone out of
the
business
heart of
over
the city.
this, but I do want them to have some pride in their ownership of their business.
So how do you enforce it? I mean, at
We
this
gotta have
point, I
order.
don't think that we can do it with RDAs
We don't,
because.
no, I don't think we should do it with RDA.
I think what we should do is we should create code that has a minimum standard that says, yes, you have to cover up your fabric. You have to have some type of plant vegetation. And
What if
you have,
having,
and there is a penalty if you don't do it.
so that planned
What's the
vegetation is going to require irrigation,
Yeah.
which you've just added a ton of cost.
I disagree.
Well, when they
When's
build the
the last
building,
time
they're
you fit
supposed to
out
have.
irrigation, a sprinkling system,
I-
and not done it yourself?
Again, plant vegetation would be a tree.
You still gotta get water to that
Yeah.
tree.
They should already have water, like, so our
Right.
site plan requires
Good, but-
landscaping.
You don't
But-
always.
Like, for example, in the town center, I know that was built under one site plan, there's like 3 buildings. But then they sold each building individually, and the building that has the water connection, those guys like messed it up, so the other ones downstream have a hard time. They're always like turning it on and turning it off, they're like fighting over it.
Cause we just went from like something basic of like, okay, you can't have dirt, gotta cover your weed barrier with mulch, to plant vegetation, which is gonna require irrigation. I would stop, I would put the line further back than you would.
Okay, and that's why there's 5 of us.
Yeah.
Is
A
it
lot of times it's irrigation
enforceable,
repair is a problem.
is it enforceable to say that they need to maintain it consistent with what the site plan is?
See, and we could beef that up. There is language that says already that they should maintain the site plan as designed in a, it says something like attractive manner, and so it's like, well, what is attractive?
neat and attractive.
And we have
Yeah,
we have
So we can
issues
keep that
when
up.
we came across things like during COVID, we didn't want to put any business out, so we didn't enforce any of these rules because everybody was struggling. But now that we're past that and we go back to some of these people, they're like, well, you didn't make me during those years, why are you making me now? And so it is hard. But you're right, I mean, we already have a code that says it should be enforceable as designed and as built. But we had, we took a break from that for pandemic.
I think we need to take the language, clean it up, and if they had a site plan and they're not, and they just either didn't do it or
So what's the
or it's
penalty?
been 20 years and we're like, I don't know, nobody knows what they're.
Or-
and at that point, the minimum standard kicks in.
Or if it's changed hands several times. They
So
don't
you,
even-
you'd have to say, must be you'd have to have a time limit from site plan, maintain it per site plan. For X amount of.
Yeah, and the
years
thing is,
back.
what if they wanna change it? What if they're like, hey, I wanna go to more of a xeriscape. I don't wanna water all this lawn, to your point. And they're like, I'd like to take out some of this irrigation. I think that should be allowable. I
And
don't wanna say, you set this site plan 30 years ago and you need to stick with it.
Sure, and they can do their little flip the strip and make it a xeriscape, and you can make the language say that it needs to look intentional, and that would be.
And I think if we do that, and then I do think there has to be an assessed fee. And I at some point, I think the fee needs to be worse to get the fee than it is to do the work at some point.
I think the only way
I
that you
think first one is
size,
$100, but if you continue to not do it,
I think the only way that you size an incentive to do the work is it has to be per non-compliant square foot. So in other words, if you have a whole bunch of space that you're not in compliance with, you pay a bigger fee than if you've got one little area you didn't comply with.
would this apply to you, Dot? Because that's a lot of square footage there.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we've tried that.
I know.
We're still
Sorry to
trying.
bring it up
We are
again.
still trying to get.
But anyway, sorry for going there.
Too soon.
Too soon. But yes,
Well, I think it's a good
you all
idea.
know my opinion.
I do think it's good to modify the language and see if we can help people improve.
So do we have any proposed language? Because to take this to another meeting, I don't think we're ready to vote. What do we need to get it ready to vote?
I
I could
think-
put something together for next work meeting.
I think what Jordan was saying, something in dealing with maintaining for the site plan. But that can only go, so, I mean, we have to have some sort of time reference for that.
Sure.
And then a minimum standard, my minimum standard would be, maybe mulch, or,
Over weed paper, not just,
yeah, you
not
can't,
mulch in
you
dirt.
can't have dirt or weed paper, you would have to have mulch or
Okay.
landscaping.
Let me interject this. from a staff position, do you feel like you have enough of an understanding of what people are saying that you could bring a first draft together?
Take a stab at it. I
All
think
right.
there's been some
So
good.
we're gonna make a first stab based on this meeting. And we'll take a second discussion point on it in August work
And
session.
then as part of it, we also want to look at penalties for not complying.
Agreed. All right, so I'm gonna move us on because we are running longer. All right, item G, discussion regarding proposed amendments to the Syracuse City budget for fiscal year ending June 30th. Now, this is something that is an ongoing task that we're gonna try to emphasize a lot more. And that is where we are with our ongoing updates to the budget. Because we seem to do them all the time. It's just a matter of being aware, I guess, of the budget adjustments. So Steve, go ahead.
So typically, just to preface that, we usually do a budget opening September, October, once we have the fiscal year closed. When we have a better idea where we're at. This came out because there's two time sensitive issues that we want to at least address with the council, get your opinion whether to do or not, and then we bring these back in the budget opening in the October timeframe. So the first one is a fire engine purchase. With our station 32, we want to have a backup reserve engine just in case our primary goes down. We have an opportunity to buy one for $40,000. This is a 1996. It's actually in pretty good shape from what Chief has said. This will just bridge the gap until our new engine arrives. These are 36 to even 40 months from time of order to deliver. That's why it's fiscal year 27 when we expect to get our new.
And that is a bargain considering how much these really cost.
So that's to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
27.
So to be clear, we do have 2 fire trucks in service. We moved the reserve one to the new station.
Yeah,
And so now we do have 2 fire trucks operating.
we just don't have a backup for either.
We just don't have a backup fire. Okay, just make sure that
This
that's level
would,
set.
this would be so we have a backup in case one goes down, because now they're both in use. We don't have a backup.
How often do we have both fire trucks out at the same time?
Chief,
I would have to pull that number for you. It happens, but at station 32, if you remember, we don't have the staffing.
Sure.
We're staffing either an engine or an ambulance, so we're kind of.
I would bring this to the table too as well, that we've had a recent training expense on one of our engines, and in the memo, it says that this could be used as a training vehicle as well. I would rather people training on a older vehicle than on one of our current models.
For sure.
Because we've promoted quite a few people and we need some new promotions that are gonna have to become more familiar with larger equipment.
Well, and the equipment can be transferred to the new engine when we get it as well. That's also a bonus.
Yeah,
Obviously, this is a safety issue for the benefit of the community.
yes.
Yeah, and it also, the other thing about a backup engine, in August, we're having an ISO audit for insurance services. Happens about once every 5 years. And the part of that audit is the redundancy. And we don't have the redundancy of an engine in station 32. And so that could potentially hurt our ISO scores.
Do we have redundancy in engine and station 31?
We have the
With
ladder.
us moving it over? Oh,
We have the ladder truck that can be used as redundancy.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, the second item is the Public Works precast concrete wall. So on the east side of Public Works, we have the new school going in. Woodside's gonna build some homes just west of that school. East of our Public Works yard. We do have an 8-foot precast concrete wall fence around the northwest and south side. Based on our standard, we do require a vinyl fence between the homes and our yard. They're willing to give us the cash value of that vinyl fence, the 17,000. Our estimate for the precast concrete wall is about 145,000 to finish off that east side. And the last piece that would come across the frontage on the front of the yard of Public Works.
This is a substantial upgrade, but it's for our benefit. It wouldn't be required for the people on the other side. It's required for us. So we're agreeing to pay the upgrade to get what we want on the property.
So isn't it usually, I always thought that when you're between an industrial zone, which I kind of think this is, and a residential zone, the standard is a concrete wall.
It is,
So how is this different?
we already agreed to this.
So here's why,
Now we're
because we got some
agreeing.
free land. We got a lot more monetary benefit by saying we pay for the wall if they give us the land. So we got more in
Okay.
land value. We come out ahead as a city.
All right.
We're just doing them a favor, but. it's
No,
all part of the
we're getting
negotiation.
something we want.
So long as, I forgot about that part. You're right. I remember that now. So with that clarification, this does, I mean, we would break a vinyl fence so fast
Well,
next to
and,
the
and
industrial
if we had to
yard.
pay for the land, we'd pay a lot more than the
Sure.
cost of the fence. So
So
we might as
I'm-
well absorb the latter or the
We
lesser
obviously need to do
cost.
this.
We haven't had any bids coming for that, right? Not yet.
No,
No, this is based on our partnering with Sicily fence. We just put in just kind of an estimate.
Yeah,
Okay.
And this will be a benefit to them
Yeah.
simply because it will reduce noise on the residents.
So I'm gonna move this to the work or the business meeting for approval. I don't think we can put it on consent because it is an expense.
Mayor, if you would, we could go forward with it with the council's approval, and then we could bring us back in October with the budget opening, because we will have other items to carry over if you'd like to do that.
Seeing that it's unanimous, I think we're good with that. Because we want these expenses to be, and we'll just do the budget opening later when we have a more complete picture. Okay. With that, I will adjourn us from the. Sorry,
Yeah.
I skipped a
Like,
very important item.
Yeah,
I came to the meeting.
I know, Collins earned his keep tonight. All right, consideration of redevelopment agency funding the widening of 1,000 near Antelope Drive. To be honest, I mean, I appreciate staff doing all the work of the design work. This has been a long time pain point in our city, that traffic chokes at this area. And if we can use RDA money, which we suddenly have a little bit of, then I think that solves all of the criteria. Does anybody have any different thoughts on that?
I think this is a great idea.
Yeah,
That intersection is so congested.
yep.
Well, I like the fact that we're opening up a path between Walgreens and Warren's.
I think that this will also make
yeah.
that vacant pad more appealing, which we do need to get developed. The one next to Warren's that's still yet to be developed.
Yeah.
This opens that up a little bit too.
Yeah, and so the alignment of what I'm gonna call to me, we always call it the Dollar Tree parking
Yeah.
lot, because that's kind of the and then we're going to align it with the Smith's parking lot. Is that just for traffic flow to get it straight
Safety.
across?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
and this would also
right now you have people trying to zip like this through.
right, the offset intersections, even though they're driveways, there's still quite a bit of traffic with the
Yeah.
interface there, and with the double left turns, it does make it not completely safe. So realigning that Smith driveway potentially to line up with what I would call the EOS
Yeah. the EOs.
parking lot access, but would make that more safe.
So really the only adjustment that's really gonna be happening is there will be a second left turn lane. It's really the only thing that's really changing this
At
intersection.
1,000 west.
Because that backs up quite a ways.
Yes.
Yeah, and it does widen or lengthen the right turn lane.
Yeah, that right turn lane is really short.
In front of Zions Bank and Smith's, so.
Oh, because you're gonna close off that one.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
And
one's.
that really
short.
helps just the traffic flow through a choke
That
point.
looks really good.
Okay,
Great.
yeah, I think this is a good
Really
move
good.
that should increase the viability of this area.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we will move that forward for approval.
well, what we're thinking of doing at this point is considering having third-party engineering firm, one of our
Double check
contractor
our math.
ones, do a preliminary design, cost estimate and environmental. And then we can determine if this is. the
We'll have
way
to
we
have
go
a
based
RDA
on
meeting.
what funds we have, but yeah, then.
Yeah, we'll have to open that up to an RDA meeting. So I'm gonna move that forward with the preliminary approval. And then I will adjourn us from the work session, and we need to call to order a business meeting for the purpose of moving into closed session. But before we do that, let me explain two things. Number one, we don't do closed sessions very often, but the Utah law provides that a closed session may occur for council to discuss things that should not be on the public record, like pending litigation, because you don't want to discuss your defense strategy or offense strategy in public so that your opponent or the other party knows what's going on, or for character of competence of a particular individual, because you are allowed to discuss that, though you aren't allowed to take action, or for pending land deals, because again, we don't want to disclose what our parameters of a land deal are until after that has taken place. So we do have issues that are of that nature tonight, and we will only be discussing those. Before we move into closed session, I am going to give us a recess so that we can clear the room and so that we can greet those who came, since we actually had people show up tonight.
Here we have to have a motion and a vote to move into closed session. You
Yes,
can
but we'll do that
now.
after. So I'm going to declare us in recess till 8 o'clock, at which point in time we will reconvene in a closed session. so that we can take a motion to go into closed session. I call this meeting back to order so that we can take a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.